welcome to this new video for my channel, The Mental Traveler. I'm Carrera, and today I'm going to be talking about The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. I shall be reviewing it in a spoiler-free way, both the book and its movie adaptation. The novel was published in 1959 and it was written by Canadian author Mordecai Rigler. The film came out in 1974 and it stars Richard Dreyfuss, Randy Quaid, Jack Warden, among others. At the start of 2018, I took a continuing education course in Canada about film studies, and our teacher was great and he showed us all these amazing movies that I never even heard of, despite the fact that I am a big movie lover. During the class in which he talked about Canadian cinema, he showed us The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. Never heard of it, but I remember he said before showing it to us that the book's author had also written the screenplay and that it was a very faithful adaptation. So yes, I saw the movie. I'll tell you what I thought about it later. And in case you were wondering, this will be a spoiler-free review, so sit back and enjoy. But yes, anyways, after watching the movie, I thought about it a lot and a lot of pieces started to fall in together. For example, one of my other courses was how to start writing your novel, and my teacher there, I remember he talked about Barney's Version, a book also by Mordecai Rigler, and then I remember that I had seen Barney's Version, that movie, when it first came out. But yes, anyways. Set in Montreal in the late 50s, the story follows Duddy Kravitz. He's a Jewish boy of around 18 who was quite the troublemaker at school, which is why nobody really thinks that he's clever enough to ever do anything important. Duddy's grandfather always told him that a man is nobody if he doesn't own any land, and is quite stuck with Duddy, for it becomes his dearest ambition. And one day, after discovering this beautiful remote lake up in the mountains, he decides that he will do anything in his power to own that land and one day build a resort there. And so we follow Duddy, who is still underage, as he does everything he can to make this happen, and along the way he meets very interesting characters. He goes through all of these memorable situations while dealing with issues such as anti-Semitism, persecution, Zionism, greed, ambition, corruption, victimization, materialism, alienation, morality, and more. I give The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, both the book and the movie, a 5 out of stars review because I really love them. It just ended up becoming one of those stories that take a hold of you and don't let go. A week after watching the movie for the first time, I bought the book, and for example, Mordecai Rigler later on went on to write a book called St. Urbain's Horseman and Barney's Version, and I learned that Duddy makes brief appearances in those books as well, so I actually looked for them. I skimmed through the pages until I could find every single appearance Duddy made in those books, just because he was that compelling of a character. He's an engrossing protagonist. He's such a well-developed, unlikable character, and I found Richard Dreyfuss' portrayal of him to be exquisite. Apparently, when the movie first was released, Dreyfuss didn't like his acting. He thought it was a bit over the top, but with time he's said that he's realized it is quite good. And initially I was quite surprised that Duddy would take such a hold of my mind because he isn't a nice character. He does some pretty shady things. His way of thinking isn't that nice. He may even be an anti-hero, but I actually ended up comparing him to my favorite character in literature ever, Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind, as they're both driven by this desire of owning a lot of money and of the importance of land, even though they have different approaches as to why it is important to own land. But yeah, anyways, I found it fascinating that Rigler managed to capture my attention so well in a book that's written in a very simple manner. It was just so good and so funny. I can't remember a book making me smile and laugh out loud at public places as much as this one did. I remember I was sitting at one point at a train in Canada and I was reading it and laughing and people were looking at me oddly. I'm even smiling right now as I remember. But I couldn't help it. Somehow Duddy managed to charm me, even though I do recognize that he's a nasty piece of work. But he was a joy of a character to discover. So yes, if you are interested in unforgettable characters, I highly recommend you to read and watch the movie of The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. The movie is just as good as the book. I couldn't take my eyes off Dreyfuss. His performance, as I said earlier, so exquisite. Rigler adapting his own book was a really good move. And also, as I said, the story is set in Montreal, and I was also reading it at one point while I was visiting Montreal, so that connection was pretty nice. I learned from that book some of the history and of the Jewish community there, and also the characters keep on talking about how much they like to eat pretzels and smoked meat sandwiches, so I realized that that's the popular food there and I had a taste of them, and they're so good. Well, and because as I said, I discovered this story through my film studies class on the day they were focusing on Canadian cinema. I want to mention that our teacher said this movie was quite the landmark in Canadian movie history. And while I found that Canadians are very proud of their national authors, I've never read Margaret Atwood or Alice Munro, but I am happy that I discovered Mordecai Rigler. And I guess that I'll just wrap it up by saying that our film studies teacher said that at the start of every movie he would be like, beware. After you watch this film, your life will change forever. Those stories, those characters will stay with you until you die. And somehow, despite the fact that we watch all of these amazing, beautiful movies, the one that stuck with me the most was Duddy Kravitz. There is a musical of this story, and the famous Alan Menken is one of the men behind this production. Maybe I'll see it one day. But yes, for the moment I think this is all I have to say about the Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. Thank you very much for watching my review of it. I would love to talk about it with you. Please, if you have seen and read Duddy or other of Mordecai Rigler's stories, I would love to discuss them with you. In the description box below you can find a link to the Goodreads page for the book, as well as a link to the IMDB page for the movie. I'm Gara Herrera, the Mental Traveler, and I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Take care, and I'll be seeing you soon. Goodbye!